Please be specific. Tell us your views on LGBT, how you plan to be inclusive as president. Speak about North Carolina bathroom law in particular.
Oh, I had a feeling that question was going to come up, I will tell you. Well, look, North Carolina did something that was very strong, and they're paying a big price, and there's a lot of problems. And I heard one of the best answers I heard was from a commentator yesterday saying, leave it the way it is right now. There have been very few problems. Leave it the way it is. North Carolina, what they're going through with all of the business that's leaving and all of the strife, and that's on both sides. You know it is. There have been very few complaints the way it is. People go, they use the bathroom that they feel is appropriate. There has been so little trouble, and the problem with what happened in North Carolina is the strife and the economic punishment that they're taking. So I would say that's probably
people
the best
working
way.
in your organization?
I don't know.
No?
I really don't know. I probably do. I really don't know.
So if Caitlyn Jenner were to walk into Trump Tower and want to use the bathroom, you would be fine with her using any bathroom she chooses?
That is correct.
Oh my God, a trans woman in New York. I got to take a pee. Anyway, oh my God, the Trump International Hotel. I love this. Okay, last week Donald Trump said I could take a pee anywhere in a Trump facility, so I am gonna go take a pee in the ladies' room.
Putting Trump to the test. Today, Caitlyn Jenner stepped into the murky world of US election politics when she posted this video on Facebook.
And not anymore.
Today, I'm going to talk to you about a few things, most of them pertaining to gender identity, and all that stuff. Like, before I begin though, like, when I say gender, like, what do you think that is?
Guy and girl, boys and girls.
That is where you're kind of right. You're pretty much right. I'm actually going to get into that.
Penis and vagina.
Not sex. Sex and gender are different. Is anatomy, it's like, you know, your body parts, your chromosomes, all that. Gender is your mental sense.
Miraloma Elementary School, which is in that town, has eliminated separate bathrooms for boys and girls. The bathrooms there are now gender neutral. All the signs on the doors are gone, and the little kids going to that school can go pee in any of the bathrooms that they want to.
I think it'll help students feel more comfortable, and it'll make people happy in their school and know that they're accepted.
It's accepting people, we're accepting club sports, why we use it? That sounds awesome to me. Good job.
I think it's good. Yeah. If it made people comfortable, then good. I think it's a good idea for the different types of genders, people who want to be female, people who want to be male.
Everywhere we go, people want to know. People want to know who we are. Who we are. So we tell them. So we tell them. We are the queer youth. We are the queer youth. Mighty, mighty queer youth. Yes, we did it.
Where students would say they oftentimes either get bullied or feel uncomfortable. It was in the restrooms. At times they would have to hold it and not go to the restroom all day long, and that was unhealthy for them.
At first there was confusion because we thought all the restrooms were going to be gender neutral, but that wasn't the case. We just really wanted one restroom. This restroom is important so all students could feel comfortable, not just LGBT students.
Focusing a little more on transgender issues, there is one particular school district in the Bay Area in California that has decided to create gender-neutral bathrooms. Now, this is specifically a San Francisco elementary school, and I love what they're doing. Let's show you a little example of their bathroom signs now. It includes men and women, or girls or boys, and they want to basically accommodate students who might not necessarily identify with the gender that they were born with. Or let's say they are girls who identify as tomboys. They want to make sure that it's a gender-neutral environment where they will feel as comfortable as possible. Now, Mira Loma Elementary School's principal did make a comment about this. He says, "We are the first elementary school in the district to say that's not good enough. All of our students should have full, equal, safe, comfortable access to facilities." So far, no parents have complained, probably because this school is in San Francisco, which is a very liberal area.
Retain some of the original shapes of man-made structures. This stunning structure stands out as a singular formation with 4 sides, surrounded by a deep moat. We move in closer to inspect the unusual features evident on the side of the formation. On the side of the structure, this swirling pattern is different from any type of sedimentary rock or soil that would normally contain horizontal, even layers. These swirling designs were also seen in other ashen formations in the cities. This is evidence of extreme heat, up to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, where thermal ionization occurs, when the electrons repel and attract, forming these unusual swirling designs. In Lot's day, this area was a swirling cauldron of death and destruction, rained down from the Lord in heaven.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Darren Perrin.
And I'm Kristen Kelly. A Vermont teen is pushing to have gender-neutral bathrooms in all middle and high school.
We spoke to the Human Rights Commission yesterday and to our Bianca Slota today. She's live in the newsroom. Bianca, what's the story here?
Well, Darren and Kristen, Kyle Yard Chase says he's speaking out for himself and for other Vermont teens whose genders don't match their biological sex.
If you think life is complicated, try dealing with a transgender girl texting a boy she just met at school.
She's made a new friend, and it's a boy. So I tell her, you know, if you're gonna have friends that are boys, they need to know immediately. I wanted to tell you that I was transgender, which means that I was a boy, but I became a girl. So I have a girl brain, but a male body.
A few moments later, the boy responds, obviously confused.
He just sent me, but you have a girl body, right? That's a very difficult question to ask. Why don't you tell him to watch the videos first?
Jazz texts him back to watch this online video of her, hoping it will help him to understand.
And I think like a girl, but I just have a boy body.
Oh, that's a cute video. So what parts of a boy do you have? What are you gonna say? The P word. You are? The P word.
Like a tattoo that won't rub off, the P word is likely to follow Jazz everywhere.
I don't care what he thinks about me. If it's bad, if it's good, then I love him, so I am.
What are you doing, Jazz?
Oh, wait to hear what she's up to.
Greg has been down this road before with his oldest daughter, but advising a transgender tween with a crush is new territory.
What did he say?
He accepts me for who I am.
Oh, that's sweet. You happy?
Now I'm texting my friend about it.
I gotta go.
Come on, what'd you do this time?
Just reach behind the pillow.
14-year-old Corey, who was born a boy, has been referring to herself as a girl for the last 5 years. She also has a puberty-suppressing implant.
Oh my God.
She has been waiting 2.5 years to receive her first hormone dose, and her mum managed to capture her emotional reaction on video.
Do you know what that is? Do you know what that is?
What is
Trigger warning ahead. John Hopkins psychiatrist now coming out exposing the fraud of transgenderism. Yes, Michael W. Chapman for CNS News reports some news that will certainly trigger transsexuals across America to cry out in agony. Dr. Paul R. McHugh, the Distinguished Service Professor, there he is right there, on the left, of course, He's a distinguished service professor of psychiatry at Johns Hopkins University, and he's also the former psychiatrist in chief for Johns Hopkins Hospital, who has studied transgendered people for 40 years, said it is a scientific fact that transgendered men do not become women, nor do transgendered women become men. All such people, he explained in an article for the Witherspoon Institute, become feminized men or masculinized women, counterfeits or impersonators of the sex with which they identify. Dr. McHugh, who is the psychiatrist in chief at Johns Hopkins Hospital for 26 years in the medical institute that had initially pioneered sex change surgery and then later ceased the practice, stressed that the cultural meme, or the idea that one's sex is fluid and a matter of choice, is extremely damaging, especially to young people. Chapman continues that the idea that one's sexuality is a feeling and not a biological fact is doing much damage to families, adolescents, and children, and should be confronted as an opinion without biological foundation wherever it emerges, said Dr. McHugh in his article, Transgenderism, a Pathogenic Meme. Write that down, Google it, Transgenderism, a Pathogenic Meme. Okay, the article continues here. Dr. McHugh stated, and he's speaking out, quote, because truth matters, but also because it's overlooked amid the hoopla enhanced now by Bruce Jenner's celebrity and Annie Leibovitz's photography, because their propaganda has created many victims. He writes here, think, for example, of the parents whom no one, not doctors, schools, nor even churches, will help to rescue their children from these strange notions of being transgendered and the problematic lives that these notions herald, warned McHugh. They rarely find therapists who are willing to help them work out their conflicts and correct their assumptions. He writes, rather, they and their families find only gender counselors who encourage them in their sexual misassumptions. In addition, he said both the state and federal governments are actively seeking to block any treatments that can be construed as challenging the assumptions and choices of transgendered youngsters.
Caitlyn Jenner is ready to bear it all. Us Weekly is reporting that Jenner is set to pose in nothing but an American flag and her Olympic gold medal on the cover of an upcoming issue of Sports Illustrated. While there's no word yet on when the issue is set to hit stands, it is set to celebrate the 40th anniversary of her 1976 Montreal Summer Games decathlon win. This would mark the first time Caitlyn has posed nude or been photographed with a medal since her transition last year. She's excited about that, a source revealed.
Know that the people of North Carolina, Mississippi are wonderful people. They are hospitable people. They are beautiful states, and you are welcome. And you should come and enjoy yourselves. And I think you'll be treated with extraordinary hospitality. I also think that the laws that have been passed there are
We are here to announce a significant law enforcement action regarding North Carolina's Public Facilities Privacy and Security Act, also known as House Bill 2. Now, the North Carolina General Assembly passed House Bill 2 in special session on March 23rd of this year. The bill sought to strike down an anti-discrimination provision in a recently passed Charlotte, North Carolina ordinance, as well as to require transgender people in public agencies to use the bathrooms consistent with their sex as noted at birth, rather than the bathrooms that fit their gender identity. The bill was signed into law that same day. And in so doing, the legislature and the governor placed North Carolina in direct opposition to federal laws prohibiting discrimination on the basis of sex and gender identity. More to the point, they created state-sponsored discrimination against transgender individuals who simply seek to engage in the most private of functions in a place of safety and security, a right taken for granted by most of us. Last week, our Civil Rights Division notified state officials in North Carolina that House Bill 2 violates federal civil rights laws. We asked that they certify by the end of the day today that they would not comply with or implement House Bill 2's restriction on restroom access. An extension was requested by North Carolina, and was under active consideration. But instead of replying to our offer or providing a certification, this morning, the state of North Carolina and its governor chose to respond by suing the Department of Justice. As a result of their decisions, we are now moving forward. Today, we are filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against the state of North Carolina, Governor Pat McCrory, the North Carolina Department of Public Safety, and the University of North Carolina. We are seeking a court order declaring HB 2's restroom restriction impermissibly discriminatory, as well as a statewide bar on its enforcement. Now, while the lawsuit currently seeks declaratory relief, I want to note that we retain the option of curtailing federal funding to the North Carolina Department of Public Safety and the University of North Carolina as this case proceeds.
Joining me now, North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory. Governor, thank you so much for being here. So let's start with this.
Thanks.
What was the fear that led to the enactment of this law?
Well, let me just correct the introduction story. The Charlotte Ordinance was a mandate on all private businesses that have public facilities to require them to allow gender identification as the tool on which restroom an individual should use. So basically what we did in the state of North Carolina was overturn a local mandate on private businesses. I do not want government to be able to tell private businesses what their bathroom policy should be. I have no desire to be the bathroom police for private business. So one of the great misinterpretations from the New York Times and the Huffington Post and others is that we passed a bathroom law on private businesses. Just the opposite.
But with respect to government businesses, you have passed a law that requires people to use the gender that aligns with their biological gender at birth.
That's correct. With regards to rest stops on the highway, with regards to universities, with regard to our high schools and junior highs and elementary schools, we do require that.
What was the concern specifically? What was the evidence that led you to believe this was a problem?
It wasn't. It was a respect for privacy. It was an expectation of privacy that individuals have, especially our youth have, when they go into a locker room, a shower, or a restroom. They expect only people of their gender to be there in that shower, locker room, or restroom. And
let me just ask you about
a tradition that we've had for many years.
Let me ask you about that. Let's take locker room and dressing room out of it for now. Let's talk about bathroom for a second.
Well, that's a part of it, though.
I know, but a law can be drafted narrowly or broadly. And this one encompasses all three. And so I want to ask you about bathrooms, because I've been in women's bathrooms my whole life. And we don't have the urinal situation. We got like the stalls, and we get to go in, we go to do our business, and like we don't see each other. So why are you concerned about, young girls exposing themselves or seeing somebody else exposed in a woman's bathroom?
Well, first of all, I can't believe we're talking about this. This is not an issue that I started. This is an issue that the left started, not the right. And it's not just women's bathroom, it's boys' bathrooms. And in fact, the Obama administration now is putting requirements on federal money given to states that they also have to have this gender identification requirement for our schools. And this case is being tested in Virginia and Illinois.
If you could just,
I just think we all.
Strange anomalies can be seen here, such as these fragile layers of material which disintegrate when touched. The limestone buildings in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were totally transformed into ash by the consuming fire of the Lord. Evidence of this destruction is revealed in the white gypsum anomalies in the area, including unusual shapes of chalk-like material, which is not found in other parts of the country. Even layers of white and gray material can also be seen, comprising gypsum and ash. At the time of Elijah on Mount Carmel, the Lord sent down a superheated fire from heaven, consuming the stone altar and sacrifice, turning them into ashes. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and it licked up the water that was in the trench. We are also told, "For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God." When God unleashes a consuming fire, it will turn stone into ashes. At the perimeter of this city, one can see this amazing Sphinx still standing today. It was a pagan symbol positioned at the edge of town and was thought to protect the inhabitants from harm. The Sphinx stands alone as a singular structure with a defined shape.
Well done, girls. I have to say, it looks such hard work.
Last week, we did a story about how porn giant xhamster.com decided to shut off service to North Carolinians as a result of the passing of HB 2, the controversial bill barring cities from enacting any laws to protect the LGBT community. The bathroom bill provision targets transgender individuals, saying that people may only use bathrooms corresponding to the gender on their birth certificate as opposed to the gender they identify with. Well, we're in for a treat today because I have Mike Coolidge, spokesman for xhamster.com, here in the studio to talk with me about the decision to say no porn for you to North Carolina. So, welcome, Mike. How are you doing today? Thank you so much.
I'm good.
All righty, let's go ahead and jump right in. So, Mike, we've already seen a lot of big companies criticize the legislation. We talked about how PayPal decided to not open up global headquarters in North Carolina as a means of protest. We've seen Bruce Springsteen and Bryan Adams cancel concerts there. I'm just curious, can you talk me through xHamster's decision to bar North Carolinians?
Yeah, xHamster is one of the biggest porn sites in the world. And we have users from every type of gender identification or sexuality, so we just felt it was extremely unfair what they were doing.
Okay, we're down at Sodom and Gomorrah still. Right in front of you see some unusual looking spots on this. Shall we say, layer of ash. It's not stone, it's ash. Now we'll move in for a close-up of this. And you can see that they're kind of circular shaped places. Now what we have found, and we'll move in a little closer here, is that inside each of these is sulfur. And we'll go collect that sample in a bag. Before I started using this knife, it was very, very sharp. Okay, here this is, and we have collected some more, and it smells.
Bruce Springsteen and his E Street Band have canceled their concert scheduled for tomorrow in Greensboro, North Carolina, to protest the state's new law blocking anti-discrimination measures for gay, lesbian, and transgender people. Springsteen said the law overturns progress in recognizing the human rights of all people. His boycott is one of a growing number of economic hits to North Carolina and other states adopting similar laws. Joining me now to discuss that is political reporter Kevin Robillard. Joins us from Washington. So how significant has this been for North Carolina? I mean, it's been bad press for them all week, but does this make an economic impact?
Clearly, it's starting to have one. Last night, there were some reports from the North Carolina media that, significant numbers of conventions were either canceling or reconsidering going to North Carolina, which is something that translated to, the thousands, potentially the tens of thousands in hotel room stays. And, chances are when you're staying in a hotel, you're also, going out to eat and, purchasing things at nearby stores for your family or whatever. So, yeah, this is something that has a ripple effect when, these boycotts or decisions not to go to North Carolina.
On Tuesday, January 12th, Hot Octopus, a company specializing in sex toys, erected what is called a Guy Fight booth on 28th Street and 5th Avenue in New York City, where men could go to relieve stress. The booth was inspired by Time Out and Glamour magazine surveys, which concluded that between 31 and 39% of men admit to masturbating while at work. Hot Octopus says it created the booth so men can take this habit out of the office and into a more suitable environment designed to give the busy Manhattan man the privacy and the high-speed internet connection he deserves. The company claims approximately 100 men used the booth on its inaugural day and plans to add more pop-up booths around Manhattan, in other major U.S. cities, and in London, where the brand has a more loyal following.
Live-streamed sex acts to classmates on Facebook. The students at Barack Obama's School of Career and Technical Education received a new version of sex education recently. According to CBS News Chicago, they reported that police in Milwaukee have now launched an investigation after 3 teenagers live-streamed themselves having sex while their classmates watched on their phones at school. It's interesting that this was a tech school, right? So certainly they're exploiting technology and the human form, but these are teenagers live-streaming sex acts to Facebook to their fellow classmates. What is going on in this world? CBS 58 in Milwaukee reported that 2 girls, 14 years old and 15-year-olds, as well as a boy, 15, reportedly skipped school back in January, and then they engaged in sex acts off school grounds while streaming the video live on Facebook. Now, 4 students, they write, watched the video on their phones while in a health class at the Barack Obama School of Career and Technical Education.
Controversy this morning surrounding Disney's much-anticipated Frozen 2. There's now an online push to make a big change to one of the stars. Some Frozen fans want Disney to give Elsa a girlfriend in the upcoming sequel. This is all in an effort to raise LGBT awareness.
Let it go, let it go, can't hold it back anymore.
Could Disney let its writers go ahead and make Elsa a lesbian for the sequel of Frozen? The hashtag Give Elsa a Girlfriend has gone viral. A teen tweeted that out last month and basically said it'd be iconic if it happened. Mixed feelings online, of course. We'll just have to wait and see what Disney decides.
All right, meanwhile, another topic. Target has come out and they have said that the customers at Target can use restrooms and dressing rooms that match your gender identity. In other words, do you identify it as something that is contrary to how you were born, essentially?
In dressing rooms.
Yeah, and so what has happened since then is the American Family Association started a boycott. And so far, 340,000 people have signed the pledge not to go to Target anymore because they don't like the idea.
I can say all my neighbors feel very, very virtuous because they're on the side of Target here. They feel like good people. Here's what they don't care about: the fact that 1/5 of American households have no wage earner at all. That half of Americans can't come up with $400 on a day's notice. The country is getting poorer. People are terrified they need jobs and higher wages, and yet the elites are focusing on bathrooms? Where's the evidence there are a lot of people being discriminated against at Target bathrooms? I don't think there's any evidence.
The American Family Association said this means a man can simply say he feels like a woman today and enter the women's restroom, even if young girls or women are already in there. We asked you what you thought, and you have lit up the email machine.
Marjorie says, I'm a woman, and if this is Target's new policy, then I will not shop there. They are now infringing on my rights as a woman.
Oh, your rights don't count, Marjorie. You know that. Target really did outdo themselves, says Mariano. They should be boycotted by the entire decent population. Men should never be allowed in a woman's bathroom.
All right. What do you think about that? You can email us, friends of Fox News.
Governor Dan Patrick. Sir, thank you very much for being here with us tonight. Your comments
Sure,
first
Megan,
on, in response to the White House's remarks on you.
Well, first of all, when all you can do is personally attack someone in less than 24 hours after you have a new policy out, you already know they're on the defensive. And by the way, for the record, I spent 8 years in Senate Education, was the chair of education. As Lieutenant Governor, I oversee a budget of about $40 billion, 6 million students, 1,200 school districts, and 330,000 teachers.
Done more
so
than
I know
radio.
a little bit about education, more than Josh or the President does. This has nothing to do, this policy, to enhance education in our country. It won't improve reading skills or math scores. It won't help kids graduate. This will do nothing but be more disruptive Megan, to our schools. Look, I was talking to a teacher just a little bit ago, and they say, you know, we have a tough enough time with boys in the locker room and girls in the bathroom. When you start bringing in 14-year-old boys with 14-year-old girls to shower together, 7-year-old children co-mixing in the bathroom, it's going to be chaos in our schools. The president, by the way, he threatens to take away funding.
Let's just have a back and forth on it. Let's just have a back and forth on it rather than just talking straight through. Because this is what the other side says. This is the reality. This is the reality of life in 2016 America, that we are now finally getting to the point where we recognize that there are trans women, trans men, trans girls, trans boys, and that they have been stifled and tortured in a way for so long that, yes, there may be some disruption in mainstreaming these kids and getting things to a place where they're accepted, but that it's for the greater good.
Megan, the transgender population supposedly is around 0.3%. And by the way, every school district has handled the transgender children just fine. They make accommodations. We make accommodations in America for all types of students who come to school with all types of issues. Again, America is not going to stand for having their teenagers shower together or go to the bathroom together in elementary school. It's not going to happen. This will be the beginning of the end of public education as we know it. It's going to inflate the roles quickly in private schools and homeschoolers. It's going to push school choice all across this nation.
Why? If you could answer my question, why? Why won't Americans stand for that? Why is it like, try to articulate
because
why
it goes against common sense, common decency, privacy, comfort, safety, the value system of people. And by the way, Megan, this is not a partisan issue. In Houston, I helped fight back an ordinance that would have allowed men in ladies' rooms. And we defeated that ordinance in a Democrat city 2-1.
Allow
Families,
men
black,
in the
brown,
ladies'
and
room
white, Republican, Democrat, will not
allow
accept
trans
this, Megan.
women in ladies' rooms?
Pardon? Pardon?
The ordinance would have allowed men in the ladies' rooms, or it would have allowed trans women in the ladies' rooms?
No. Well, here's what people don't understand. When you pass these ordinances and these rules, particularly in the adult sector, it says any person, any man who feels like he's a transgender, he feels like he's a woman, can go in. They don't have to be dressed like a woman. They can be dressed like an ordinary man. And what this creates, Megan, is a great loophole for all the sexual predators and sex offenders that if anyone Googles in their neighborhood, they'll be shocked of how many live around that area.
Why can't the
to
sex
take
offenders
advantage of that
I mean, like,
loophole.
a lot of sex offenders are men who molest men, who molest boys.
Sure.
Why is there
Megan,
an assumption that they need to sneak into the girls' room?
Well, and it could be vice versa, but Megan, look, I have 4 grandchildren and 2 children. I don't want an 8-year-old granddaughter walking into a bathroom with a 30-year-old man there, and no one else does. Anyone who has a grandmother, mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, granddaughter doesn't want them exposed to that.
And she would never know that this is. What if that man looks like a woman,
No,
and she
Megan,
would never know
you're
that
missing
this is?
and this is what people are missing.
I don't think I'm missing anything.
No, Megan, look. Laws like this would allow any man at any time dressed any way to go into a bathroom.
Do you
because
have a
they
big
feel like a
problem with
woman.
that?
Pardon?
The point is is this a problem? Is this a problem with men
it will
intentionally
be if we
donning
allow
women's
men in
clothing
ladies'
so that
rooms
they
in
can
America,
sneak into
and we will have problems in our schools if we have boys and girls showering together. Megan, this goes against, just again, common sense and common decency. Women deserve privacy in the bathroom. They deserve safety in the bathroom. There's no need for this policy. This is a policy, a solution in search of a problem. There isn't a problem. Again, the president needs to stay out of local school districts.
The most impressive evidence was this cremated bone fragment that was left behind from some lost soul of Gomorrah. The bone marrow inside was cooked until it had turned white. This is a moving testimony of God's power to destroy those who reject the Holy Spirit. Are we in the will of God, allowing the Holy Spirit to guide us into obedience? Or are we part of the rebellious and lost?
Have you seen him? Do you love him? Will you give up all to serve him? Do you know him? Here comes the Lamb of God, passing by, robed in splendor. Angels bowing at his feet, trembling in complete surrender. The heavens sing, clouds sway to the Ancient of Days. The core of the earth knows the Lord's worth and erupts in praise. every tree fruitfully blowing in the wind. They know all things hold together through him. And yet, the Christ condescends, not for the trees, elements, animals, or wind, but out of love, descended like a dove to make sinners his friends. But we prefer a theoretical knowledge. Mankind prefers examining natural things while neglecting opportunities to know the King of Kings. I said we prefer a theoretical knowledge, our degrees from Bible college, when the kingdom of God is so close at hand. We would be changed if we would be still and acknowledge the Son of Man. He has spoken in his word that he is the word. We can commune with him, our daily food that he willingly serves, but we'd rather spend the time on a blog reading something we overheard. Rather than wrestling with God over these pages of truth, wrestling not to win, but so that we would always lose. If necessary, walk away with a limp or a thorn in our side so that we can humbly surrender any temptation to pride. Can't be content tweeting quotes from men who labor in the presence of the Most High. We settle for secondary revelation, and yet we wonder why we're so dry, shallow like a bonsai, waiting for a like, rather than an eternal love from the one who gave his life. See, Jesus Christ, he's jealous for his glory. Before this globe was structured, he was crafting a supernatural story, starring his mercy, co-starring his grace, directed by the hand of God. Truth is, we should all be on our face, not on YouTube. Rather, lights, camera, action as we zoom into his crucifixion. The only sacrifice which does suffice should motivate our contrition and set ablaze our delight. Not gathering information to add to our spiritual resume, but digging in our heels to comprehend the depth of his majesty every day. Not reading the Bible to sound spiritually deep, but savoring his word because his truth is oh so sweet. Have you seen him? Do you love him? Will you give up all to serve him? Do you know him personally? Not heard it through the grapevine that his grapes were crushed and poured out wine? Have we tasted of his blood and eaten of his flesh? Experienced his power to exchange his life for our death? See, we were dead, worse than in a grave. Enslaved by legions of demons, the prince of the air had us depraved. A spiritual death which transcends the flesh, creating an eternal heat wave, which we rightly deserve, but while in our sin, God graciously chose to save. Now we have peace and serenity, since we are no longer an enemy of the Trinity, free to get on our knees, confessing, Lord, I believe, as we put off sin and cleave to his divinity, counting it all lost for the sake of Christ. Anything gained in this world cannot be compared to the fact that we have been paired with, made heirs with, his holiness who chose to spare us with himself. He gave us himself as his treasure. We have the privilege of loving him, our treasure. From the moment we were born again until forever ends, which is never. Have you seen him? Do you love him? Will you give up all to serve him? Do you know him? Do you know him?
Thank you.